It's one of those days when you wake up and you pick up your phone like I do, like every other American does, and you see headlines that are something that you've talked about recently on this platform, because I always talk about music and my favorite bands. And I knew something was going on with this story, this headline that I read this morning, waking up. And if you followed me, if been a subscriber since last year, you know that I've been very critical of the band Motley Crue after they decided to come back from the End tour, which lots of fans like me spent lots of money in order to go see these bands. And they do all this stuff where they sign contracts and all this stuff, but it doesn't matter to you because you're just excited about seeing a tour, right? A concert in your city, plus you add one, maybe in LA or maybe in Vegas, whatever you prefer, right? So you expect when you go to these things that, you know, these guys are out there doing what they love to do, is play music. And I always talk about Metallica just being sharp, and Metallica always working on their craft, and always having something for you as a fan. You know, you have the option. Hey, do I want to buy some of their whiskey? Do I want to buy some of their blackened cigars? Do I want to buy the merch? Do I want to fly to San Francisco to see him play with the orchestra? Or, you know, something really cool that Metallica always has brewing. Because I'm always talking about how they're very active on social media. They use the socials very well. The people that they hired and put behind them to do these jobs, they're doing an excellent job at it. And they're keeping us fans engaged. And not when there's something going on, like if there was something going on in the Metallica camp, it'll come out. It will come out because Lars will come out and say something, or James will go into rehab. Something happens. You know, it's out in the front. It'll be on the headline. And a lot of times it's really not negative. And they're not out there flaunting themselves like, hey, look at me, look, I'm such a big rock star. And I'm not taking that away from these guys because they deserve it. They're road dogs. They've been out there. They've done it all. They've toured. They've beat up their bodies by choice. And we love them. We love the music. We love the entertainment. And it's a part of our everyday lives, right? So when I see this headline, Mick Mars sues Motley Crue over tour profits and says if Nikki Sixx bass tracks on the stadium tour were all pre-recorded. Wow, shots fired right off the back. And it's everywhere. Everywhere you were looking. Because I was watching, I go on Twitter and I see what's trending. I see Mick Mars, Motley Crue. Okay, and I see a friend of mine who's a musician and he tours. And he starts talking about Mick Mars. I'm like, whoa, did something happen to Mick? Or, you know, because of his age. That's the first thing that comes up to my mind. Oh, no, is Mick okay? But Mick is fine. Mick is good. But it's just in the headlines everywhere. I knew there was something up. I've told you guys, if you go back to some of the older podcasts I've done and talked about how Mick Mars seemed like the odd man out. Because it was always, when you would see these guys live, it was always about Tommy Lee, Nikki Sixx, and Vince. Well, not much Vince. He takes a beating every night because of his singing. He's still very critical. Everybody's like, no, Vince has got a lot of work to do, and I get it. He lost weight. I don't know what he did. Did he do surgery? He did something, because he's losing weight. But still, he still needs to work on his vocal craft. If you don't work on that, then, it's going to show, because you're out there in front of thousands and thousands of people every night, or almost every night, and people are hearing this. And now with social media, it's brutal, man. They will come out and they will pinpoint things about you. And that's what they've done to Vince. They destroyed Vince on media, making memes of him, just all kinds of stuff. So that's beside the point. We know Vince has had his issues in the past, with DWI, manslaughter, just everything that happened that went down early in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I don't have to go back, and if you're a Motley Crue fan, you know these things. You know that they've had their run-ins with alcohol and drugs, and we've seen it. The Dirt that just came out on Netflix was a huge hit because it was crazy, outrageous, and it talks about things that the average Motley Crue fan didn't know, and it brought a lot of new fans in. But I've said this about Motley Crue. As they keep getting older and older, Nikki Sixx is the mastermind behind Motley Crue. And Tommy Lee is the guy that's like, okay, well, I'm down for whatever, okay, let's go do what we got to do. And Vince is a yes man, because he knows he's been fired before, and Nikki won't put up with it. And I read somewhere the other day, there was an article. I need to fact check that article, because it talked about how Motley Crue's getting ready to fire Vince Neil and bring in Scott Stapp from Creed. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I want to hear it, but I'm not gonna go out and spend a lot of money to follow these guys like I did before. There's a lot of things that are up in the air right now that I'm reading with this lawsuit that Mick Mars he filed in Los Angeles. He was kind of forced out, and I mentioned that. I mentioned how it all went down, but behind the scenes, this thing was brewing for a while because they didn't want it. They didn't want it to go out to the fan base, because they wanted to be, oh, we're all nice guys, we love each other, we care about each other. For the longest time, people knew that Vince and Tommy Lee they hated each other, and they probably still do. But it's the money that changes these guys and the lifestyles they live. And I have nothing against their lifestyles or how they live or how they spend their money. They've earned it up to now, I think. Because if I'm reading this, and Mick, people are going to say he's a disgruntled former employee, right? That's the first thing they're going to say. But I think Mick Mars is a straight shooter. I think he will call it like it is. He is not going to sit up there and be like, hey, you know what? I don't like the way they treated me and this and that. Now I'm going to, put some trash on them. And I don't know. See, Motley Crue, they already issued a statement because this was blowing up on Twitter. I tweeted at Tommy Lee, at Mick Mars, at Nikki Sixx. But I left Vince out because Vince got nothing. Vince is just like, whatever. I don't want any part of it. Where do I got to go sing next? So Motley Crue already issued a statement. Motley Crue issued a statement on Mick Mars' lawsuit, which was filed in Los Angeles County earlier today, calling the guitarist's claims unfortunate and completely off base. What do you say there? Okay, and that was Nikki Sixx. Dude, we offered you something. You were making 25%. And since you're not touring with us anymore, we're going to cut that down, and we're going to give you 5% out of that 20. What do you say? Sign off and you're good to go, man. And Mick is like, really? Like, no, that wasn't the agreement. I said I couldn't tour anymore because of his disease, his bone disease that he has. And I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to diss on that. You know what? Mick Mars has given it everything he's had for years from the beginning when this band started. And he is this, I've said this before. I'm just not like, kind of pointing it out now that this has come out. I've been really beating this down for months. And everybody kind of overlooks it like, this dude is just talking shit. He has no clue. He doesn't know the band. But you know what? It's not, I don't have to know the band personally. It's just the signals that you're seeing when you see these bands live and you hear them and you see them and you follow them on social media and you see what they're all about. And that kind of, gave me a little bit of, I started really kind of questioning a lot of things about this band because of how quick the whole deal with getting rid of Mick Mars happened after the stadium tour in Vegas. That was the last show. I was at that show. I didn't have any idea that was going down. I don't think anybody did, unless you were like in the inner cores of Motley Crue, which Nikki Sixx already had the master plan about bringing his best friend in, John 5, because there was quotes out there saying that Mick Mars was not remembering the licks or playing the wrong songs at the shows and doing. I don't know. You would have seen that on Twitter. I mean, you would have seen that on YouTube, or somebody would have put a clip. I think the most clip they put out there was of Vince Neil, lip syncing, because he was caught. And I caught some of the things too live, and I don't know, man. It's crazy because I believe Mick Mars. I believe Mick Mars that Nikki Sixx, and he claims Tommy Lee and Vince. I mean, they all were pre-recorded parts in there, and there was there was parts of the show that they talked about in this article saying there was people that saw Tommy get up from the drum set and walk away while there was still drum parts being played. And the same thing with Nikki. Like, he was pumping his fist up in the air, and there was actually in the middle of a song or in the end of a song that he kind of just jumped the gun on it. So he's kind of just running around up there and just kind of really just being really basic and not filling in the work. But here he is complaining and talking about on social media, man, it was a great tour. Well, dude, if you're just up there jumping around and dressing up, then I don't know. I have to question that, because I don't question Metallica. When I know I go see a Metallica show, you'll feel Metallica and you'll hear Metallica play. The thing is, it's not important to a lot of people. A lot of people are like, dude, you're overreacting. Or, you know what? I've seen this band plenty of times. And it's all living up to what it is. These guys are just, I don't know. It's crazy because everything that is out there, about Mick Mars, it's crazy. He's played for Motley Crue for 41 years. And I think he deserves a little bit more respect and treatment. Even though there was things that happened, Nikki Sixx, aka Gene Simmons, that you question about Mick. Mick is Motley Crue. You might be the mastermind behind it, or you say it's your band, but I don't think this would have happened without Mick Mars. You wouldn't have sustained this popularity and the success without Mick Mars for this long. I want to see, because they're talking about, he's bragging about on Instagram and on social media, saying, hey, we're working, I'm sending stuff to Tommy, and he had a notepad in front of him, and he's send to Tommy, and he scribbled down something else, and so they're working on new music with John 5, and that wasn't in part of the agreement. Mick Mars made it clear, saying, hey, look, I just can't tour. You can bring in somebody to fill in, but when we can do small shows, he even talked about residencies. I'm down for those small little events and making music with the band. And apparently that is out of, like, they have nothing for him anymore. He's actually done. Like, you're fired, dude. Go away. Take your 5. They upped it because they filed that, they countered their deal and said, you know what? Okay, we offered you 5. Let's go 7.6%. Okay. It's crazy because they're saying, Mars says that the band had demanded him to sign a severance agreement that would further the future interest in return for 5% stake in the group's 2023 tour, which is going on without him. Like, it's so messy. It is so messy. Okay. And the Motley Crue made a statement, and so Mick Mars came out and fired some shots. So Motley Crue, aka Nikki Sixx, sat there and he wrote back. He talked about, he says, Mick's lawsuit is unfortunate and completely off base. In 2008, Mick voted for and signed an agreement in which he and other band members agreed that in no event shall any resigning shareholder be entitled to receive any monies attributes to live performances, i.e. tours. Okay. So Mick wants, I'm sure Mick has all this, if this exists. But Mick's saying no. Okay, so this is the rest. After the last tour, Mick publicly resigned from Motley Crue, despite the facts that the band did not owe Mick anything, with Mick owing the band millions in advances that he did not pay back. Wow. Wow, okay, shots fired again. The band offered Mick a generous compensation package to honor his career with the band. Motley Crue always performs its songs live, but during the last tour, Mick struggled to remember chords, played the wrong songs, and made constant mistakes, which led to his departure from the band. Man. There are multiple declarations from the band's crew attesting to his decline, which are attached. The band did everything to protect him, tried to keep those matters private and to honor Mick Mars' legacy and take the higher road. Unfortunately, Mick chose to file this lawsuit and badmouth the band. The band feels empathy for Mick. Wish him well and hope that he can get better guidance from his advisors who are driven by greed. Signed, Nikki Sixx. Okay. Man, here we go. It's out there. The dirt. I can hear the music in the background already. Give me the dirt. It's insane. It's dirty now. Both camps firing at each other. I tweeted out to Mick Mars' wife, and we follow each other on Twitter. So I love Mick Mars. I'm a huge Mick Mars fan. So I follow Mick, and then I saw his wife there, and she followed me back. This was years ago. We've been following each other for a while. She's a huge Eddie Van Halen fan and a huge supporter of Motley Crue. Anytime they did anything, they were on the road, and she was always posting and showing good, positive things about the band. This is ugly. This isn't good. It really just, you know what? I've seen the best of it. It's becoming a shell of itself. If it's moving towards the way I think it is, then this is no good anymore. You know what? Give each other the money, settle out. It's almost like a Queensryche thing. Let's all just, and all of a sudden, what do? You just have, right now in Queensryche, all you have is Michael Wilton and Eddie Jackson. At some point, it's going to be Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee. That's it. Everybody else is going to be a hired hand. And that's ugly. I don't want to see that, but that's the way the direction of this is already going. I've talked about how I felt after the 2022 stadium tour. I was like, dude, Nikki comes out and makes the same deal. Tom Lee comes out and talks about his penis. And, everybody else, and Vince just lip syncs. So now I don't even want to see it. They're coming this way again. At the end of this fall, they'll be back in the States, and they'll be in El Paso and I think in Arlington. I'm not sure. They're coming this way. But I don't think I'll be a part of it. I think I've had enough. I've had enough of the lies, the deception, just everything that comes along with this band. They were really cool, and it was cool. It was a good run. It was a good run with them. But now that you're just becoming a shell of yourself, it just really just a bad look all the way around for Nikki Sixx. And for the yes man, Tommy Lee. He's, oh yeah, whatever, dude, whatever we're going to do. And he's already said, we're going to tour. Nikki's already telling, are you in? We're doing this till 2030. 50 years, man. Wants to keep on cashing in. Just playing, smoking in the boys' room. Girls. I mean, it's like, when is it? Just please end it now. It just sounds horrible. Now with John 5 coming in and trying to harmonize with Tommy playing the piano during Home Sweet Home. It just, I bet Nikki's, oh, that sounds great. Oh God. I'm sure he's not getting paid as well as Mick Mars was. And I'm sure that Nikki's like, dude, I got a wife and I got a kid and I got other kids. I got to support Tommy the same thing. But, I have to have my Lambo and my Ferraris. And, we just need our cut. We don't want to give away that 25% anymore. Let's get rid of the old man. Let's start over. And let's go play dress up and go dance around and put a lot of lights and steal people's money. And I wish that I can get a refund for the end gear that I bought, all the stuff that I bought, everything. I wish I could get a refund for that. Like, that sucks that they did that. And then now look where it's turning into a circus. But it's Motley Crue. They will always be in the spotlight as long as Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee are in the helm. But when you see negative things about about Mick Mars, people are going to pile on. You're going to have to take a side. Look at all these other bands that are right now, Kiss and Ace Frehley. Paul Stanley came out and was like, Ace Frehley said, that Ace Frehley said that Paul Stanley called him and said, fuck you, and hung up on him. They're not getting along. It's about money and just greed, all of that. Same thing with Queensryche. It's not as big as these other bands like Kiss and Motley Crue. That's huge. Queensryche is not at that level. So now it's a circus. Like, I'm just going to talk about it. I am team Mick Mars. I want Mick to win this because Mick talked about him. Mick talked about him playing out live. I want to play out live. You guys can fake it. I'll play along with you guys, but I'm going to play my instrument. It's that's what I like about it. This is what I like about the whole thing is that Mick he stuck to his guns. And he's like, you know what? I'm not going out like that. I might be old. I might be, not be able to move around with you guys because of what I have. This disease is bone disease. It's kind of making me shrink 2 inches already. I'm not the same height. I'm trying. He did the stadium tour all the way through. He got through it. It's like your grandfather getting up there and doing what he did. He did it. What other proof do you need? The night that I saw Motley Crue, I never saw him miss a note. I was in the front row. I was listening. I was all about it. So, yeah, it's very interesting. Let's see what's going to happen next. But this, man, it's got a lot of tentacles in it, and there's more to come. So stay tuned. Tweet at me at Johnny Compian on Twitter.